I'd like to call to order this executive committee meeting of the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization today on April 7th. Welcome everyone. Hope everybody's been enjoying the spring-like weather of late. I see Ms. O'Bannon kind of shake her head. She must have.
Well, it's raining out there.
Well, that's part of spring, isn't it? Chet's going to be doing multiple roles today. He's a man of all seasons, as we know. So you're going to be the clerk today.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to try. Ms. Firestone has some other things that she has to take care of today, which require her attention someplace else. So, Chet, do we have a quorum this morning?
Yes, sir. I believe we do.
Do we have anybody joining remote? Do we need to let them know the people that might be wanting to watch this meeting?
Patricia Page is there. I see that.
We have Ms. Page and Dr. Newble attending virtually.
Okay.
She must be on the phone.
Yes, she's on the phone.
Okay. Do we need to call? Do we need to call the roll?
Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and do that, just so I can practice.
Yeah. Get you ready for the big game coming up.
That's right. Mr. Hodges.
Here.
Mr. Cota. Mr. Carroll. Mr. Peterson. Here. Mrs. O'Bannon.
Here.
Ms. Page.
Good morning, here.
Dr. Newble.
Here.
Okay.
Mr. Holland?
Is Mr. Holland here?
No, I'm just
Okay.
saying, you didn't call his name. Or Miss Haley.
Mr. Williams.
Sure.
Okay, I believe that is everyone that is in attendance. And we will note otherwise if anyone joins during the meeting. But otherwise, I think we can move forward and certify a quorum and take the next item.
Okay. Do we have any amendments to the agenda meeting this morning?
No, sir, no amendments.
Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion for approval of the March 3rd, 2022 Executive Committee minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hodges, a second by Ms. O'Bannon. Any discussion on the motion? Would you please call the roll, I believe?
Sir, Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson. Aye. Mrs. O'Bannon.
Aye.
Ms. Page.
Aye.
Dr. Newble.
Aye.
And Mr. Williams.
All right.
Motion carries.
That brings us to our open public comment period. Anybody wishing to come forward, we will allow you 3 minutes. Please give your name and your address. If you represent a group, we will allow you 5 minutes.
We don't have anyone joining remotely, and I'm not aware of anyone in the room from the public that wishes to participate.
Then I will close the first public comment period. Chair's report. Chet, could you give us an update? Ms. Page, as you recall, at one of our previous meetings, made the recommendation that we extend an invitation to the new Secretary of Transportation to come meet with us. Can you give us an update on where we all fit?
I can give you an update, and it's going to be brief because we haven't made much progress. I think from what I can find, it's been difficult to invite the secretary to get a response and to get in front of the secretary to make that invitation. So my suggestion is to draft a formal letter from you as chair to extend that invitation for a meeting, whether it's our upcoming joint meeting or another one over the next few months to see if there is a possibility of having the secretary attend.
Okay.
Joint meeting sounds like a good idea.
Ms. O'Bannon?
The joint meeting, that sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
That, maybe that would be important enough. Just saying.
Yes, we agree. We agree. Unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to instruct Chet to go forward with his plan to send a letter extending the invitation. Ideally, we would like to have it on the joint meeting coming up. That's going to be in our June meeting where we will have, the three organizations at the table. Is that correct, Mr. Chet?
Yes.
Okay. And the three organizations, of course, are Plan RBA, CBTA, and the TPO. Okay.
Yes, sir.
If you will see to that and just give me a heads up when you're ready for me to sign that, we'll be good to go.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I
Peterson.
think it's a wonderful idea, but I think you ought to emphasize that all three, for the secretary to be able to visit the three different groups at one time is going to be attractive, a lot more attractive than three different visits.
Yes, we agree.
Emphasize that.
We agree, Mr. Peterson. Thank you. That moves us to the secretary's report. Chet, like I said, you're doing all the different roles today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the first thing to highlight is that we do have a letter now from Mr. Williams as chair of the RTPO that we're going to send to Plan RVA Board and CBTA, inviting the two chairs, Mr. Thorne and Mr. Winslow, to extend the invitation to all three boards to meet at the normal day that the TPO would be meeting, so that will be June 2nd. And it will take place of all three regular meetings that will be scheduled for that month. So I think we did some informal polling with the member jurisdictions, and the responses that we got were all very positive, especially if we could cut down on the number of meetings we have that month and combine into one joint meeting. The purpose is going to be to highlight regional planning and collaboration, all the work that's been done over the past year or year plus, and to discuss how all of our priorities align and that we're moving forward as a region to do a lot of good work for the community. So we'll be working with the chairs and other selected individuals over the next couple of months to solidify the agenda and make sure that we cover everything we need to. We also have I think a concurrent effort that's ongoing with improving our marketing and brand, and we'll be certainly, the goal is to implement that for the joint meeting so that we can communicate more clearly and more fully with the public and our partner agencies about who we are as three different organizations and how we work together, and hopefully get a lot of participation in that meeting, whether that's in person or viewing online or at least sharing information about the outcomes. So staff's excited about that opportunity, and we're looking forward to.
Well, I'm excited
having this
I'm excited as well, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to be using our new plan that Dr. Newbill and her committee, I'm assuming you're using that,
Yes.
Her ideas and recommendations to us. Because this is an important meeting. I think, to the extent we can communicate in the region what we do for transportation across the three organizations is extremely important. So again, I would like to emphasize, to the extent possible, that we communicate to the public about this important meeting coming up. Any other comments from commissioners? Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, thank you. I think that covers the secretary's report.
Yes. And you get to go to the next line.
So I think this is a good opportunity for the executive committee to kind of review what's on the agenda for today. I know that I wanted to, if it's okay, Mr. Hodges raised some issues late yesterday about one of the agenda items, and I think as we get to that, I wanted to start with the first thing that, well, we've been looking at this for a couple months now, is the revision of the bylaws. And assuming, hopefully we get 2/3 majority here today, so that we can have the first reading of the bylaws amendment. If we don't, then We just have to push it back another month.
Drink poison.
Right, but that should be, unless anyone has any new concerns, there isn't any new information. We didn't change the amendments, the same blue line that was presented the last few months is what's on the agenda for today. To bring it more in line with the ability of, with what Planner VA has right now, and the ability to participate remotely, given particular circumstances, so that across the organizations, the policy is the same. So that's, I'm hoping that we do have the attendance that's necessary to move that forward.
Was up in the front.
And now we have the voting tool that will help us certify that we do have
Exactly.
the right numbers.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Any questions for Mr. Parsons? Mr. Hodges?
Yeah, what was the concern, Mr. Hodges? As I
The
said,
split vote that's kept us from taking action, it would be interesting if there was a summary of just what it, for those with multiple votes, which jurisdictions are split up. Without getting into too much detail, you don't have to do it now, but I just, for someone who has an issue and might be interested in convincing other members of, say, Chesterfield County, how many members do I need to talk to? The one that showed up or the ones that aren't there? I don't know, just
Yes.
sort of a general summary of how the votes are split up by jurisdiction.
Sure, yeah, we do have that, and I don't have it in front of me, but we can certainly distribute that, because as you know, we've been discussing it, every jurisdiction has a different rule.
Yeah.
So a number of jurisdictions, just a quick summary for anyone who might be watching this later, a number of jurisdictions have a rule where if not everybody who is a member is here, the person that's in attendance gets all the votes. So that it isn't split, but it's weighted a different way. Other jurisdictions have single votes, or it depends on who the member is that's at the table. So yes, we could certainly make available the rules that we understand for each jurisdiction, and we've had some time over the last few months to certify those and make sure that we're reflecting the wishes of the jurisdiction.
Sure.
So,
Thank you, that would be helpful, and I think helpful to the chairman as well.
yes, and I see you're looking at the voting tool in the packet, Mr. Hodges. I think the benefit of having that is today, when we try and take the vote, we'll be able to know immediately if we have the 2/3
That's great.
available to move that forward or not. So,
And Shed, I believe y'all staff, you polled each one of the jurisdictions to find out their druthers in terms of how they wanted votes in their jurisdiction represented across members.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. We had an understanding to start with, and we polled each jurisdiction to verify that that was indeed the method that they wanted to use.
Right.
Move ahead. The other items in the agenda, we have a somewhat detailed report from Mr. Bushing on Stbg and Cmac draft allocations. This has been vetted by the TAC and discussed at length over the last few months. It follows a new set of guidelines that was adopted last summer by this body, and we'll certainly we want to take time to move through that and understand the recommendations that have been made by TAC, and to make sure that everyone is comfortable with moving forward. But we would like to have action on that today to approve the draft allocation plans for both of those grant programs, because we do want to keep that money flowing and available for project development when each jurisdiction is ready for that. We had 2 grant letters of support for raise grants that have been put in front of the TPO. I think the TPO's support for applications of this stature is important, and it shows that there is a regional need and a regional commitment for those projects. So I appreciate the 2 letters, the request for the 2 letters to be signed. we do have, the letters are from Henrico County and the city of Richmond for, I believe it's 2 bridge projects. And those letters were in your packet for your information. I wholeheartily recommend approval of those 2 letters so that we can move the region forward and get those grant applications in and be as competitive as we can. The last thing under new business that I kind of wanted to spend a little bit more time this morning talking about was the Regional Transportation Safety Plan. This is something that has been in development for over a year. There's been a subcommittee that has been set up with the majority TAC members involved, working directly with Stephen Reed from VDOT, as well as a team of consultants from VHB to come up with this safety plan. This is something that we haven't had before in the region. A number of jurisdictions approach traffic safety in different ways. The city of Richmond has a very detailed and comprehensive Vision Zero plan. Some jurisdictions don't have anything. The impetus for this was that it would be really a novel concept to look at safety at a regional scale. We weren't aware of something like that happening, and it really kind of lifts everybody up to understand, one, that there is a lot of data out there that helps inform decision-making in terms of where key funding should go and opportunities to improve the transportation network. And I think too, to just foster that regional conversation about best practices and letting technical staff get in front of each other and discuss what they're finding and how people are moving forward with addressing major safety concerns. So TAC had a presentation from the VDOT and the consultant last month and recommended approval of the plan. So it's on the agenda for today's meeting to have action to adopt the safety plan. And there's a lot of detail, but I think it's simple enough where you kind of get an overall regional picture of what the conditions are and where incidents have occurred in the past and what actions are proposed moving forward. It also has sections for each jurisdiction, which is really a great thing to have. And staff is planning on using this plan as kind of the kicking off point to host more data online and update it on a regular basis so that we can keep track of hopefully improving conditions and moving projects forward in the safety realm. Because that's, as I said, that's something that the TPO hasn't really been a leader on in the past, and I think there's an opportunity here. Not just within our region, but to be able to talk about how we're doing this when we get in front of other regions as well. But I know Mr. Hodges had some concerns about rail and conflicts and those kinds of things. So I wanted to certainly, if it's okay with the chair, to let Mr. Hodges state his concerns before we get
Not to speak to the detail, but the concern, just generally, if that's all right. The Ashland feels special for many reasons. One, because there's the main line of the Eastern Seaboard main rail line with 60 trains a day at least going through town. And I think the safety report is a good one, and I like the color coding, and I was able to compare details on, or the highlights of Ashland versus the highlights for the region, and pop out the significant differences in our locality versus the region. The main thing, obviously, of concern to us is the intersection of highway over rail, which isn't an intersection of road to road. And that's not called out. I didn't see any reference. And the other concern related to emergency response, we happen to have an intersection on Archie Cannon and Vaughn Road corridor that has a school and a fire station within half a mile. And when a train blocks that, you put at risk not just the town, but a large section of western Hanover. So my point would be that this is a good study, and I didn't want to stop the region or suggest stopping the region from enacting what I think is a good report, but I did want to ask, and I didn't ask yet till yesterday, late, how this concern could be addressed. I think the report calls for review in 3 to 5 years if it's adopted. So we haven't had a chance to talk, and we can do that between meetings so as not to slow this meeting down. But the concern would be how to add the rail highway intersection safety concerns into the report to address not only Ashland's concern, but it also affects other jurisdictions in the region.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Mr. Peterson?
If I can add on to John's, we had an incident just a couple of years ago where a train, the freight train came through Ashland. The engineer ran out of time, so they stopped the train. And it was 2 or 3 hours before they could get another engineer in. In all the intersections, we had absolutely no access for emergency situations for 2 or 3 hours because the engineer had run out of time. Yeah. And there were no alternatives except to go around your elbow to get past the train, and it blocked all the intersections.
I remember that. Thank you, Mr. Hodges, for your comments.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dr. Newmill, please.
this is
Page, I'm sorry.
no worries. I have to absolutely come into agreement with Mr. Hodges and Mr. Peterson. In New Kent, within the, I think it was going on 2 years, unfortunately now, that we had a pedestrian that was hit and killed at a crossing, and the fight was to do new crossings and markings, which the family met, the county met to no avail, because the issue that runs through is some of the train tracks, the crossings cross into private property. And so it would be my desire that if we pass the transportation safety procedures, that at least the first year, that we will review it at least the first year. And maybe after that, review it every 2 or 3 years. But I think I think that it would be impertinent that we review it the first year just to find out where we stand. So that's my 2 cents, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Any other comments? Mr. Parsons,
Mr.
you know,
Chair.
we have the link for this safety report in the agenda. Is there any way we can include the safety report, you know, on our website under other reports so that somebody doesn't have to go to the agenda to be able to link to this report?
We do have it there already.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You're way
We've got it
ahead.
in two locations.
You're way ahead of me. Thank you, sir.
And I do have, for
Mr.
Mr.
Chair?
Hodges. Oh,
Yes,
Well,
Dr.
yes,
Newell?
I just wanted to, yes, just briefly, I concur with Ms. Page I think it would be very much advisable to review this in the year, and then we can review it, have extended periods beyond that. But because of the 2 items mentioned, I think a review in a year would be advisable.
Yes, ma'am, thank you, we agree. Other comments?
Mr. Chair, I was just gonna say that it might be a good idea between meetings. I do have a little bit of information that I've gotten from VDOT overnight that I can talk to Mr. Hodges about before our 9:30 meeting.
Oh,
So we
absolutely.
can address that in the
Good stuff.
full group.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Unless there are other questions about the agenda, that's the update for our full board meeting.
Okay. Other business, anything board members would like to share this morning? Okay, we will move to, our next meeting is going to be May 5th. And if there's no other comments, I will adjourn this executive committee meeting this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So,
It's amazing how you can multitask.
just record everything and then just, type it up.